Hello viewer, EricTheCarGuy here. Behind me I have a 1997 Nissan Altima. And it's a nice car. It's one of the nicer cars we've had here at EricTheCarGuy. In fact, it's got something like 86,000 miles on it. So low mileage, clean car, what more could we ask for? Well, how about a little bit of work? And that little bit of work today is what I believe to be a leaking intake manifold gasket. And this has been diagnosed in another video. I'll put a link in the description to that video so that you can follow along as we go in our quest to get rid of an engine miss that we have in this. And I believe the intake gasket leak is around cylinder number 4. In my opinion, like intakes, removing them can be challenging, mostly because of clearances, and this is going to be a real test of your tools and your ingenuity at times, because there's a lot of fasteners on an intake manifold that are just inaccessible. Might be a good word. We're fortunate on this one that they're not all covered with oil and gook and dirt, so that normally means that it's going to be fairly easy going, but we'll see. And it's been some time since I've done one of these gaskets or something like this on a car like this. I don't often see Nissans. But, you know, it doesn't mean I don't like them. They're good cars. But enough of my intro, my lead-in. I think we should just get down in there and start tearing stuff apart. I'll meet you over there. Right, so at some point we're going to have to get up underneath the vehicle to access some of the fasteners and things that are on the underside of the intake manifold, and perhaps some brackets, things like that. In addition, I'm kind of a tall guy, so I like to lift the vehicle up a little bit so it's a little, I don't have to bend over so much to get into stuff. So my first step is I'm going to raise the vehicle and put it on jack stands. I'm pretty certain somebody's going to ask where I'm placing the jack, and there's that support that runs underneath the engine. That is where I'm doing my lifting from. I'm hoping that's going to be enough height. If not, I'll have to raise it up a little more. Okay, so here we are under our Nissan. This is a 2.4 liter, by the way, for those of you who may be wondering. Now, a lot of times I'm used to seeing like a bracket or support up under the intake manifold here. I'm not seeing that. Not sure if I'm going to call that a good thing or a bad thing, but that's what is. I'm just going to proceed as normal and try to get as many of the fasteners from up top as I can. And that's going to be the real challenge with this entire job, is that there's going to be fasteners that are somewhat inaccessible, that may get in the way or just be stuffed up in places that are just hard to get to. So I'm going to do what I can to get as much, if not all, these fasteners out from up top. And I'm not looking to remove the intake so much as push it back against the firewall or bulkhead. That way I can just get to what I need, which is the gasket. So I'm only going to do what I need and remove what I need to remove. I'm going to try not to, remove stuff that isn't really necessary for this job. Let's start with some fender covers. It's a nice car. I want to keep it that way. Keep any scratches from my jacket or whatever. But I just figure, well, I'll just start by getting some things out of the way. The ignition wires are easy enough to remove, so.
It sort of comes to mind here that normally what you would do when doing a big job like this is disconnect the negative battery cable. I did not here. I kind of regret that, but at least I'd like to inform you that that's a pretty good idea before you get started on a major job like this, just to avoid any electrical issues during the whole process. So, good idea, disconnect the negative battery cable before you really get into it.
And how about this throttle cable? I can also sort of, in order to gain access down into this area, I think one of the first things I can remove to help me get that access is this siren here. Just stick it back through like this. That way I can find it when I'm done. This will be, whoops. It's okay, you're gonna be okay. The reason I want to remove this is because this is just got all kinds of potential to cut me as I'm trying to reach down in here. Okay, one of the things that's connected to the intake that I know I'm going to have to deal with here at some point is right here, and that's the connection for the EGR pipe. So what I'm going to do right here at the start is I'm just going to hit it with some penetrating oil and let that soak for a little bit while I disconnect some other things. So hopefully that'll break loose nice for me. If it does, it'll make it nice and easy to move the intake back, but the intake's not going to move back unless I get that loose. Another option would be to remove like this fastener, and there's another one down here, and then you could just take the whole thing back. But this way I don't have to worry about this tube or any of that stuff. For all of this, I'll just be able to just kind of move it back. I'm also just going to remove this PCV tube. So it begins. First damage to the glove. I'm also going to take off the snorkel going to the air filter housing. I'm just going to start with this hose clamp. And we got another hose clamp down here. We've got a small vacuum line here that's not all the way on. And I'm also going to take this tube here loose. Hopefully, get this guy out of here. Looks like, rather than trying to take out that lower assembly, I think I'm just going to loosen the hose clamp here and just leave this attached. For this one, I'm just going to use a pry bar to get up underneath. Just sort of pull up on it. There we go. That opened up all kinds of real estate, didn't it? Try to keep all my parts organized. I'm setting that on the moonroof there so that it doesn't mar the paint at all. I've just decided that I think I'm going to remove the air cleaner assembly. All I need to do is knock the clips loose, disconnect the mass airflow sensor, and I got all that room now. I'm excited. Once again, put stuff up here. Just gonna take the air filter out too. That doesn't look that bad. I might throw one of those in there anyway. I'm gonna see what I can do about this nut here. This is a 30mm nut. And I'm just gonna hit it. Oh wait. It's very important that you turn it in the correct direction. This is a big wrench, so it's got a lot of leverage. Hopefully I won't have to work too hard. I'm sort of hitting up against this throttle assembly a little bit with this big wrench. But I think I've got it loose enough now to where I can just get it the rest of the way with my fingers. Now I've been thinking, I can just undo this one end, but I almost think it would be a good idea to undo the other end over at the exhaust manifold. And I say that because even if I don't take the tube out, I'm still going to want to get access into this area, into this stuff here. So the more opportunity I have for that, the better. Something else I'm thinking of doing is just removing this throttle cable assembly. It looks like it's just two 10mm down here, 10mm fasteners down here, and then this ball and socket joint, which I believe I can just pry loose with a screwdriver. And if I'm able to do that, then I'm just going to take this assembly off of here and I can just get these throttle cables out of my way. Try this with a small pry bar. That was easy enough. Now for those two 10s. Looks like there might be more than just those two. Ah, there's a third right here. Get more room by the second. Now, as with the other one, I've also hit this one with some penetrating oil. Oh wow, looks like somebody's had this shield off. for this fastener, I'm just gonna stick it back in here, a couple of threads. Nothing wastes your time like looking around for, you know, a fastener when you're trying to put something back together. So it's a big waste of time. All right, now I'm gonna break this one loose, or attempt to break this one loose. This one's a tough one. This is the one that stays hot. This is the catalytic converter down underneath here. This one, I believe, is a 24 millimeter. It is. All right, here's the deal. I just need a little more room here. So it looks like that shield is going to be a bit more involved. So instead of torturing myself trying to do that shield, I'm gonna bend it. At least try to. Just to see if I can get a better angle out of it. I think my channel locks might be a better option. All right, just before I do that, I'm going to take this bracket off. There's already been a couple of occasions where I went to use my wrench and this was just, quite frankly, in the way. All right, here goes nothing. I don't know if this will work or not. If it doesn't, I'm just gonna chalk this one up for experience. Let's see if I can find a wrench that fits a little better. 24 is very close to a 15/16. So if this 15/16 does the trick, it's not. I've got one of two choices. I can ignore it or I can heat it. I think for now I'm gonna ignore it and I'll come back to it. If I need to loosen it up, I'll heat it and loosen it up. If I don't, well, I don't. Okay, one of the first things I'm going to do is remove this fastener down in here that holds a bracket to coolant pipe. I believe it's 12 millimeter, and it is. Well, given the length of this, I think it's also an intake fastener, but as you can see, it's coming out and hitting, so I'm not going to be able to take it all the way out, which is okay because I just need to get it out of the way. I don't need to, you know, get all fancy with it. I've got another one right up above it, which I'm going to say is probably going to be the easiest fastener of this whole entire job. I don't think we're going to get them any easier than this. That's just my prediction. Alright, now this is challenging work, and you can sort of see why, because then it's also going to be challenging to try to show this to you, just because these fasteners are just tucked up underneath here. Now when they assemble this engine, it's not inside of a car, so it's probably a little easier to get to these things. And that's what we're dealing with. Oh, here's another one that's underneath the fuel pressure regulator that looks like it'll be a challenge. So I will try to show you as much as I can, but I'm sure you understand that I'm only going to be able to do so much. Now I'm going to remove the throttle cable assembly. This is something else that's going to give me just a little bit more room. And that's pretty much what this is. It's like little tiny battles for space that you do. You try to find out what's in the way, try to get it out of the way, move on to the next thing. And it looks to me like I can take the entire fuel rail off of this, which I think I'm gonna do. And that's this here. It's only held on by two fasteners. I think I'll do that because it looks like it'll come apart and come out of here without having to open up the fuel system, which would be nice because That way I won't have to worry about gasoline bleeding out all over the place. If I can just move it up out of the way, I think that will be extremely helpful. There's two 12s. There's one here, and there's one here. It's a little more difficult to see. Just gonna try to pry the fuel rail out of the intake there. It doesn't take hardly any effort at all. Get a look at all those fuel injectors. That gave us a lot, actually. I'm really pleased with how much that gave us. Here's something to be aware of. There's these little plastic insulators that I don't want to lose, so I'm going to keep those with the fasteners. There's two of them. They would fall out otherwise. Now that I have the intake open, I really have to be careful about keeping debris and things out of this area for obvious reasons. But now I'll be able to sneak down through these areas here to access a lot of these fasteners so much easier. I'm amazed at how much that really opened things up for me. My next one is kind of one of the trickiest. I think we've got a strategy that just might work. And that strategy is I'm going to try to take this, sneak it down through the hole. The reason why I had that piece of paper on there is because the ball on my extension is worn out. But that extension may be too long anyway. Yeah, kind of is. So I'm going to use the shorter extension and try the same thing. Give me my socket back, Nissan. Thank you. You know, and this is what this is like sometimes. Just a war of millimeters. Well, just so you get a general idea of what I'm doing. And eventually I hope to get on that little fastener there. I am trying to help you, car. Just remember that. I haven't even gotten to a point where I can get tension on it yet. And I just lost my socket. Magnets are very handy. Trick is, if something isn't working, try something else. I wasn't kidding when I said this will challenge your tool arsenal. Seems like it would be a simple enough proposition to do something like this, but not often. I've been trying for some time now to try to get down in there, but this is going to be my latest thing. I've got a 3/8 to 1/4 inch with a little 1-inch extension that I'm going to try to fish down through the intake this way, which means I have to kind of go underneath this AC line and over. Then I found if I take my magnet and use it to help position the socket, sometimes this is a war of millimeters. It really and truly is. I sometimes wonder if this is what surgeons feel like. Okay, you can kind of see my ratchet buried down in there. And then can't even get light on it hardly. There's my socket, there's my ratchet. And I've got it all the way up over here. And I'm gonna try to break it loose this way. But this whole time, and I've been at this a little while now, I've just been trying to break that one fastener loose. And that's what I mean. This is gonna be a challenge to your tools and your patience. So be as patient as you can. See if it, just keep trying different things. Don't keep trying the same thing. And I still don't have enough swing here to do much of anything. I haven't even got enough to get it to move. It was a good try though. Okay, I finally got this one broken loose, and here's been the setup. It's been the 1/4 inch with the 1-inch extension with the 12mm swivel on the end of it, and I'm holding everything in place
with these pair of long needle nose pliers. And I'm happy I broke it loose, but I can't help but think what it's going to be like trying to get this back together when I'm done, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And some of you might be saying, like, gear wrench. I gotta tell you, I'm not seeing that I have that kind of room to even get that down in there. You'll like this. I'm actually using 2 screwdrivers, sort of like chopsticks, now that I've broken it loose, to try and spin it the rest of the way out. I mean, it's working, kinda. That was sort of working, but I've switched to the magnet in the screwdriver and it's working even better. And just sort of come up on a... I can actually show you this. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm just sort of taking the magnet up on one side, sort of hooking it and pulling it. It's actually working pretty good. I'm really grateful that this thing isn't in there much better and it's not all corroded in place. If it was, oh man, this would be way worse than it is. And just to give you an idea of how long it's taken me to get to this point, I've actually been at this about 35 minutes. Just trying to get one fastener. Yay. Okay. Oh, yeah, baby. All right, well, hard one, but one. And we're just gonna keep on trucking. Some of these will be easier than others. In fact, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna leave this center one that's pretty easy still in place. And the reason I'll do that is because when you get to the last fastener, the tension and the weight of the intake manifold is going to ride on that fastener. And what'll happen is it will make it difficult to get out of there as a result. So if you leave that one fastener, the one that's easiest to get to, in the middle and leave it tight, it'll make things easier as far as getting the other difficult fasteners out. Okay, I've got another one of those fun ones. If it matters to you, these are 12 millimeter. I haven't even gotten the socket on the fastener yet. Same thing I did on the other one. I just sort of wedged the socket in place. There we go. That's the sound we wanted to hear. All right, let's see if we can employ those same methods as we did before with the magnet. It's not loose enough yet. Doing the same thing as we did on the other one. Sort of going down the one side and pulling up on it to get the fastener to loosen. Okay, there's another one. Wasn't as difficult as the first, but difficult just the same. Another somewhat challenging one. Hopefully we'll be able to pop right on it. It's just a straight up socket. That'd be great. There's a sensor right here I have to be careful of. In fact, I think I'm going to put a short extension on so I can get past it. Here's my rig for this one. And it's the one all the way down in the corner. There we go. Like I said, there's a, what I believe to be an intake air temperature sensor. Could be a coolant temp sensor. It wouldn't be uncommon for coolant to be flowing through the intake at some point. Now this one, I'm pleased to report, I can actually get my fingers on. And another successful fastener removal. Got one up here that's pretty easy to get to.
think we just have the one easy one to get to left. It'd be a good sign if the intake starts to drop as I remove this. And it's not. This could mean I have more work to do somewhere. I do somewhere. Ah, there's one more further down. And sticking with that philosophy of you want to leave the easiest one for last, I'm just going to take that easy one I just removed and put it back in. Using a long, straight box end wrench for this one. Back to our magnet method of removal. Ta-da! It's funny that something that would seem to be difficult, like just getting that one fastener down there, was easy compared to some of the others. Still not acting like it's loose. That's disappointing. That means there's a bracket or a fastener somewhere that I did not get. Remember when I said that there's coolant normally running through intakes? Well, just in case, I'm going to take my catch pan and slide it up underneath the car to catch any coolant that might start dripping out when I push the intake back. I believe I might have found my culprits. Those two fasteners right there that are underneath the throttle body look like they attach to a bracket that attaches to the engine block. So I need to remove those. And hopefully that will be the last thing I need to worry about. Because this ain't fun. These are 12s. At least I think they're 12s. I believe I'm starting to see a gap. All right, back under. Do you remember when I said that there may be some brackets or something that holds? Well, I got one right here. Super difficult to show you, but right by this oil filter, there's a bar that runs up. And there's a fastener like right there on the side that I need to remove in order to get that bracket off. And once I get that bracket off, I'm hoping that the intake is gonna just fall out of there, because that would be great. Let me see if I can put you someplace where you can see, but if not, don't get too mad at me. I don't even want to know what book time is on this. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. That warranty time's like 4/10. One happy fastener. Hopefully it's happy. Well, the bracket itself terminates on the back of the block. And my plan, in addition to taking the one off the intake, I'm just going to loosen the one that's on the block. That way it'll be able to move around a little bit and I'll have a little bit of wiggle room. I'm working completely blind. Sometimes that's just the way it is. Okay, got that bracket loose. And now that it's loose, I'm really hoping that, no, that's not my middle finger, I'm crossing my fingers. I'm really hoping that we're loose now and we can get this thing away from the head so we can see if that's where the leak was. All right, let's try this yet again. Not feeling any movement. There's still another bracket on there somewhere.